Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video.
Well, back at Giga Texas, it's another Friday. It's the 9th of June, 2023. It's hard to believe that we're getting close to the middle part of June already. It's absolutely amazing just to think about. Now, we've had a lot of great news this week, and the one that I want to talk about briefly, I think you may have already heard about it, is that a few weeks ago, Ford decided to partner with Tesla and start using the North American connector standard or charging standard, which is the Tesla connector and the Tesla devices inside of the vehicle that allow that connector to charge the battery. And this is a big win for Tesla because the standard is much better than the typical ones that you see out on third-party chargers. Well, yesterday, as you can see by these images, General Motors decided to join Ford and also partner with Tesla using Tesla's supercharger system, their API, so that their software will be able to work seamlessly while charging at Tesla superchargers, and also they will be adopting that North American charging standard plug and the system inside of the vehicles. So in the next year, they're going to be using some adapters that they will provide to their customers. And then in 2025, all of their electric vehicles will have the Tesla system installed standard. So it really makes the Tesla standard have a really strong argument of becoming the actual standard for the United States, which is, in my opinion, outstanding because the other systems really are just not very easy to use. And that charging handle that they have is just really unwieldy and just not nearly as elegant as the Tesla charger. So great to see these developments here in the United States. Now, two things that I want to draw your attention to here at the factory in the intro. First of all, a major milestone has started on that south side, just in front of the two doors of the stamping 2 section of the building. The first of the footings for columns for the building extension are now under construction. As you can see by these images, the crews are working in and amongst 3 of the defined footing excavations, and soon we should start seeing preparations for some rebar and the rebar cages installed here, which is amazing to see. It's finally getting to the point where we'll start seeing that kind of work on the south end. Nearby, the continuous flight auger, pier drilling machines and cranes are also busy a little bit further south from where they're doing the footings right now. So I'm really glad to see that and glad to be able to let you know that that is now starting. The other thing that I want to show is on that southwest corner where the temporary platform is, we got another very large delivery. This is another one of those Trumpf, that's Trumpf company devices, and these are some of those metal bending and metal forming machines that I talked about on my previous video here. So if you want to get more in-depth information about what these are and the location that they're being installed into the factory, check out that video. But as you can see by this current image today, another big delivery on that portion of the factory, which is really great to see. So otherwise, let's get into the video. A lot to see today, a lot to talk about. Appreciate your viewership and also your support all these years, approaching 3 years of covering Giga Texas. So thank you very much, and I hope that you have a great weekend. Thank you and take care.
My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. Good morning from Giga Texas. A beautiful day to fly. A lot of very interesting developments today. We'll start here on the south end where you see the work going on the left-hand side of the screen, and also part of the road work at the bottom of the screen that will proceed along the east side of the building and also provide this intersection that goes to the River Road expansion on the south end of the Cyber Pond. We'll look here at some of the materials just on the east side of the stamping machine structure. There has been some new deliveries and some developments here. We see some of those white items that I believe are part of the equipment that's being installed in Stamping 2. We also see some of these new blue deliveries being made. It looks like some of that is being unpacked right now by some of the crews, and also this large section of items with the wrapping on them sort of partially removed. Not really sure. It's hard to tell from this angle and the altitude what exactly that is, but it is interesting. There's also some of those white rack mounts near there as well. As we come up over the southeast corner of the stamping machine structure, the section down below where all the pipe work and all of the geopiers and CFA piers and piles have been completed also has now gravel mix spread on that section. We also see where the cranes for the CFA augers are moved to the south here, and the big news of the day is the beginning work on footings for the building expansion. You see there's 3 here. The square sections where the workers are in, you can see the CFA piles that they're working around. They'll put rebar cages in here. There's also tie bars between the 3. And notice where this is located, right on the south side of Stamping 2. It's a good view closer in to see how this work appears and also how those CFA piles look at this stage of development. If this is the extension portion of the building, and this will be giving us the next line of columns, this should be Gridline 85, which is the first of 8 more grid lines spaced approximately 50 feet or so apart. That'll extend all the way to the south end here, just past where the CFA auger drills are. And you can get a good view here close in of what that system looks like right now before they begin work on the this section of the site. As we cross over this road, this is the River Road expansion that is continuing from the South Bridge to the east. There's a lot of the trench work that went across this, and we saw the electrical conduit being installed on my previous video. Here it looks like most of that is now completed and they are now filling in those trenches. You can see 2 more at the top of the screen. More materials off to the left being stockpiled as well. And it looks like there's some work right here at the south end of the cyber pond. As we continue back towards the main building, we'll pass by those CFI auger cranes and the drills, and we'll approach into the south end of the building where you'll see some steel work that's been laid out here, and it looks like there's some additional work going on here with those 2 workers. It looks like maybe a small excavation hole. It's hard to tell for sure. Not a lot of work changes that's going on here where the old temporary platform used to be. But as we continue over towards the southwest corner, we see quite a bit of these larger diameter white pipes at the bottom of the screen. This sectioned off area where it's getting more trenching, more of that smaller diameter white pipe is being installed. Looks like there's some pretty tall risers as well sticking up out of the ground. Now, just to give you an idea of scale, take a look at the workers and also that red ladder that's going down into the pit. That gives you a really good idea of just the scale here. It's really hard to tell just from the drone, but these are very deep and large trenches and pipe work that are being installed. As I pull away over this trailer and the section where crews have been building more of the CFA pier rebar cages, you see many of them stockpiled here. The fact that they are all stockpiled here gives you a really good idea of how many more of those piles, that CFA piles, we're going to see drilled. And there's even more rebar over on this section next to some of the equipment for those cranes waiting for more of the rebar cages to be built. Is another angle of all of the pipe work in this trench next to the southwest corner of the building. And then also coming up towards where the temporary platform is, we see this interesting delivery on the truck. This looks like they may be exhaust pipes that that have been delivered, and we may see these extend through the roof at some point. I'm not really sure, but as you'll see just a little later in the video, there are crews working on the roof in this section, getting ready to put ventilation systems in. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. As I battle some of the sunlight, you can see there's some more deliveries here of some steel parts, some in that green bin as well. And these are getting ready to be moved up on top of the platform. And as we continue the video, I'll come back to this section later and show you yet another very interesting delivery that's made to this section. What I'm showing you here with a good close-in look is I think these are the top structures that'll go on top of the ventilation bases, and they've moved some of them over to this section of the roof where the crews are busy removing some of the rectangular sections of the roof weatherproof membrane. You can see them pulling that up right now, and it looks like they're making those rectangular sections to put those steel bases for the vents into the roofs here, and then those enclosures that I showed you just previously will most likely be installed on top of this. This may be also where we see those ventilation pipes that I mentioned on the truck installed, but I'm not sure. That'll be something that I will have to watch. So let's move across the road and pick up the drone flight here at the West Warehouse on Wheels, where you see a lot of trailers very busy on this section of the site. Also, as we fly over the trailers, the concrete that has been broken up and put into small piles is actively being picked up and put into trucks to be moved off-site for recycling, and you can see some of that activity going on here. They're fairly rapidly removing all of this debris, and I think this is necessary so they can continue the widening of that Warehouse on Wheels graded section, and also the road work that you see right here in the middle of the screen. A lot of the earthwork equipment is sitting ready to go to work, and then all of these black items that you see, I think, is geotextile membrane that will be used on some of the graded section as they continue that work. Most of the rainwater now has dried to the point where we are seeing the earthwork on this section of the site resuming, which is really great to see. And I don't see a lot of rain in the forecast, so we'll see more progress here in the coming days and weeks. The material staging on the center of the screen at the top continues to have more and more of that added, and it's coming from the material staging just to the north of the West Warehouse on Wheels. You can see that in the left-hand side of the screen. More earthwork to widen this section between the road and this new clearing area is underway today. Some of the gravel has been stockpiled here, and at the middle of the screen you can see how a lot of that rainwater is starting to really dry up now, which is good to see for that construction. Looking to the north along the highway, you see more of the material staging yards on the left-hand side of the screen, and also the extension of the road that they're constructing right now that will connect to Tesla Road. So I'll fly south along this section of the earthwork and the expansion of this entire section and give you a good view from the east looking to the west of how this looks today. As I resumed my flight here on the east side of the highway, I noticed this large delivery, so I thought I would try to track it down and get an idea of what exactly it was. It's kind of interesting that it was coming to this particular location, and I find out that they were just doing a turnaround. They had overshot the southwest corner temporary loading platform, but this is another large crate that's marked with Trumpf. And as we discussed on my 12 May video, that's a system that is used for bending metal in particular angles. And I think that may be related to the Cybertruck production. But as you can see here, they're getting the truck near where the platform is. They realized they couldn't make the turn here, so they just go up to that road at the end of at the top of the screen. They turn around and they eventually come back here. And although I couldn't really capture that on video, I was able to get some still images, which I talked about at the intro of the video. But near where we first saw the truck, we can see more deliveries being made here. All of these are being moved in that section with that ramp inside, and more materials here as well, plus drinking water that's being brought here for all of the crews. No real changes at the west main entrance that I can detect at this point in time. They have not done any more of the work that I can see on the coverings for those beams, and the Model Y with the horns has now been removed. This is the end of line section. Not a lot of activity at the time that I flew over this section. But again, this is where the vehicles depart the factory for the first time and then are moved over for preparation for transportation. As we approach the northwest corner of the factory, this is a good view of how the progress with the white stain on the exterior walls is going. And they're very near to the receiving doors of the 4680 battery production cell section of the building. And in another several days, at the pace they're going, I expect them to start rounding the corner of the building, which will be another great thing to see as they finish the entire west side with that white stain. On the northwest corner, where all of the ventilation ducts, the cooling towers, and enclosures, and this new enclosure has just recently been completed. This is how this section looks today. There are some of the solar panels stocked near some of those enclosures waiting for future installation. As we fly across the north face of the building, one of the things that I've been looking for is how they're going to manage all of the Cybertruck castings once those start to be produced in mass. And part of that may be these new racking systems that are being stored here on the northeast corner of casting. I don't know for sure, but they're going to definitely have to have a system of managing all of those castings and keep them separate between Cybertruck and Model Y. So that's what I'm looking for. We can also see on the ground the electrical conduit and those concrete vaults. A lot of work going on here to extend the conduit along this widened berm through these trenches that you see. A little bit of water being drained out of them with that truck, and also preparation for more of the concrete vaults along that side. I'm getting down low here looking in. You can get a good view inside this section where they've been doing concrete removal, ground slab reconfiguration, and it looks like there's some excavation going on inside as well. We should see some rebar and then concrete poured in there in the next week or so based on the progress that they've been making. This is a good bird's eye view looking down at the east side of the casting machine structure with all of the castings, and again that widened berm where all of the conduits being installed. Part of the reason why I'm just showing you this is to continue with that conversation we were having as far as what are they going to do with all of the Cybertruck castings, and how are they going to manage that in addition to all of the Model Y castings that are being produced and then stored here until they're used in body in white. So very interesting thing to continue to watch. We're approaching the Megapack production or construction site here just north of Tesla Road. On the left-hand side of the screen is those concrete pads that we talked about in depth in my previous video. It also looks like more materials have been delivered here on the material staging yard. And as we fly over the workshops, we can see how this site is really starting to transform. A lot of the gravel mix being put right in the middle of the section. And on either side, you can see those parallel trenches with the conduit sticking up. That's where the Megapacks will be installed. Those steel rack mounts that are holding up the conduit on either side. I think those are temporary, and then those concrete pads will be placed over that. This is the 8 individual trenches with the conduit that will connect to the 8 transformers that will then be connected to the 68 megapacks. And this bird's eye view looking down gives you an idea of how this is starting to shape up and how it is narrowing into this one section where they will connect into the cable trays. And that's that concrete structure that you see going sort of right to left across the screen into those concrete vaults on the left, and then coming underneath the drone as we pull away. And then this will be a good view of how this north end of the Megapack system looks. It appears that some steel parts, maybe some I don't know, columns or beams have been delivered in the middle of the screen, and it looks like another one is being offloaded here from the forklift. So that's another thing I'll be watching to see as they install. Also, some excavation in kind of a square section just north of those screw type piers has been made as well. Different angle of these trenches and all of the conduit that's being installed, and then where the Megapacks will be going to the south along this entire construction site. So as I fly up over the power lines, I'll look back down and you can see where those 2 concrete vaults are, and then how the conduit extends underneath the power lines, kind of in a zigzag pattern over to where the work is continuing in this excavation near the temporary retaining wall. It looks like the crews are adding rebar mesh and rebar into the base of this excavation in preparation of having a large concrete pour at some point in the very near future. And this is a good overall view of how this section looks, and then I'll just bring us back in to give you a good view of the rebar work that's going on into this excavation pit, and also where that conduit is in relation to this pit. Now there's a lot of speculation on what this may be. Probably the most prominent one that I've heard right now is a location where they will be able to route a lot of the very heavy cables that are needed to be able to handle the electrical load that comes through the electrical switchyard and then down to the main factory. But that is still to be determined and something I'll monitor. What I'm showing you here is that the gravel mix has now been completed as far as spreading on the entire surface of the electrical switchyard, and again this provides a grounding function for the workers as they do their jobs in and around the electrical switchyard, and to try to prevent any injury in the future. This section used to have a lot of the steel corrugated stormwater pipes. Almost all of them now have been installed, and we just have some of the concrete pipe segments remaining. And then here, just south of the temporary electrical switchyard, we see that work underway with trenching. Some of the concrete stormwater pipes have been installed, some of the steel corrugated as well, as you can see in this trench, and then some of those concrete vaults where they connect to. And then on the left top of the screen, we can see more of that stormwater pipe, the concrete being installed all around this entire section. And this is to help divert the rainwater away from the electrical switchyard on the Megapack site. What I'm showing you here is that all the electrical conduit work that was going on here under this road and then into this side of the road has pretty much had the trenches filled back in. It looks like that's what they're doing on this section as well. So most, if not all, of the conduit work on this section has been completed. Some more trench work, and I think that's for that black HDPE treated water pipe that they're installing right now. On the west side of the die shop, it just shows that all of the trench work has now been completed, although it does look like there's an excavation for a rectangular concrete pad in front of that large door and preparation right now. Continuing to fly up to the north, this is a good view of the west side, how wide it is, that berm work that has been underway for some time to do the widening, and also some additional work that's going on, and we'll come back for some close-in views of that trench work. On the north end of the building, I think that the crews are continuing to prepare to install the windows that have recently been delivered, and they're just off to the left of the screen, and I'll give you a closer view. But this also gives you a view inside this third floor of how that is being completed inside, with it looks like a large open section where the windows are going to be. As I pull away to give you an idea of how the material staging looks today, those stainless steel tanks remain here. They have not been moved. And the cell test lab looks like there's a lot of activity, some generators for it as well on the left-hand side of the screen. As I mentioned, the windows were delivered just recently. This is what they look like right now, and I believe this is going to be on that top third floor of the battery cathode plant and that open section that I gave you those views of just previously in the video. As I pull away, this is a good view of how this complex looks today, how the east side with all the materials appears, and it looks like there's some activity in and amongst these materials closest to the fence and right in the middle of the screen. You can see some of the workers here as well. And we can also see how the side of this building continues on the south side to have been cleared out. Some gravel mix has been spread where the section where the geopiers have been moved, and I haven't seen any of the activity with the geopiers yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to happen where that gravel mix has been spread. And here are those geopier equipment that are sitting waiting for their work to begin. As we continue to fly around, I will give you just a different angle of how this section looks for the geopiers. Some of that gravel in and amongst the equipment I think is going to be used for the piers themselves, and it's different than the gravel that's been spread on that large rectangular section. Here's a good overall view from this vantage point of the complex of structures here, and I want to give you a good view of the die shop from this angle and also the alleyway. So I'm going to fly along the length of the cathode roof and just give you a good view of how that die shop has progressed. Some of the work on this west side, how it has changed, being widened with all the berm removal. Take this opportunity to fly lower past the trees and show you this new excavation. Looks like a pipe is being installed. It's hard to tell exactly the color of the pipe with the shadows. I'm not sure if that's a water pipe or maybe it's a conduit pipe, but anyway, that's a new excavation or trench that's moving from the south to the north. The chiller plant continues to see quite a bit of activity trying to install all of the various plumbing. Most of the work is here on the section of roof with the grate. You can see some of the rectangular sections have been moved up and continue to be moved up by the crane. The vaporizer system here with the manifolds in the bottom left. And then we're going to fly through the alleyway where we see some of the gravel on the left, mostly for mud mitigation, but also just to get a good idea of how this section between the two buildings looks today. So as we fly up over the structure and then we head over to the large material staging yard, there's some new developments that I do want to show you. In addition to all of the equipment that continues to be stockpiled here, we see a crane, and it looks like there's work going on where the TKS paint system components have been stored here and continue to grow over some time. On this left-hand side with the kind of the blue forklift, it looks like the tanks that we've seen here have been moved. They were covered with that white plastic wrap, and it looks like they're getting ready to move some more equipment here. And then we also see a large tank on this trailer that has been unwrapped and is getting ready to be moved somewhere inside of the factory. And this is a really good close-in view of how this tank structure appears. I think this may be to dip parts of the body into like an e-coat system, and that may be for the Cybertruck basic cab that is composed of stamped parts welded together, and that would be where the passengers would be. But continuing to monitor these interesting TKS developments. and deliveries. Flying over the East Warehouse on Wheels, I want to show you just how the new car staging and transportation lot looks today. It is very busy. Quite a bit of Model Ys. I've had some viewers ask, do I count the number of Model Ys? Do I know what the production numbers are? And I really don't, because it's hard to really tell from just the time that I'm flying the drone. And they also do move quite a few of the vehicles off-site about as quick as they can, and then they store them elsewhere. So we don't see lots of the cars just stored in that new car transportation and lot. This is the new car calibration and testing lot. There are quite a bit of Model Ys here, but many of the ones in the middle, especially the ones with the cover, seem to be fairly static here and don't move all that often. So I don't have insight into exactly what is the purpose of that or what they're doing, but I'll continue to try. You can see a lot of the rack mounts here in front of these receiving doors and a lot of castings. Quite a few of this, and I think it goes back to that discussion I had about how are they going to manage all of the castings for the Cybertruck and the Model Ys. As I pull away and get up a higher altitude, you can see what this entire east side looks like. So it's something that I'm definitely keeping in my cross-check to find out about. But anyway, that's it for Giga Texas here on this Friday. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you found the discussion and the information helpful, and I hope that you have a great weekend. Take care.